Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys.
All right. Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project. I'm your host, Bob, and my compadre, Lalo. We're here again. I don't have anything planned for tonight. I'm too fucking busy. Just so whatever comes up, anything from Caitlyn Jenner running for governor and oh shit, I shot him. That's something we could talk about,
Yeah.
Yeah. How was your week, man?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Just it's always like, for me, I feel like it's always like a game of juggling,
Yeah.
There's just so much. I mean, because if you really like stop and think about it, there's so much in like one's life that you have to like juggle just like throughout the week that sometimes you don't even think about, whether it's like work, school, you got to take care of your house, you got to pay shit, you got to,
Yeah.
and then on top of all that, it's like all these like external and outside events that are, sometimes they affect you indirectly or directly, or,
The
it's just,
reverberations. Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like you were mentioning about like the Caitlyn Jenner stuff, and like, the trial just ended this last week. So it's just,
Yeah.
there's always a lot going on, no matter what. There's always a lot going on.
Yeah. Personally, yeah. I mean, I got a wife, I got a 15-year-old daughter, and that's a fucking handful right there. And then you're I went to put speakers in my truck this week and pulled the door panels in half, like, because they're so fucking old, because my truck's 95. So now I'm riding around without door panels, waiting on Amazon to bring me more,
Nice.
It's always, like you said, it's always fucking something, always something. I get up every morning at 4:55 and push exercise out of the way, and I meditate in the mornings. And then from then, it's just this constant work, kid, shopping, cooking, just everything pops up. And then you go to work and you try to get, and I know my boss is listening, but you go to work and you try to catch up some of the shit that you have to do during the day.
Yeah, everything's always a constant
Everything.
motion.
It's constant motion, and that new program that I'm in at work puts me on the street 5 to 6 hours a day. So there is no time. I thank God I get off at 4 now, so I can at least. It seems like that extra hour sometimes it feels like a half a fucking day to me, because I'm like, yeah, because I can stop at the store, get home, eat, do everything I need to do, and then it's 6 o'clock instead of getting home almost at 6 o'clock and then having to do all that shit. So
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's a hard job that I have, the new one, the work in the streets, but it's just it's hard because you have to be hyper vigilant all the time. Watch the people on the street, watch the people that you're with, to make sure the people on the street aren't doing something. And it's crazy, man.
yeah. I mean, well, if I know something, it's that human beings can adapt probably better than any other animal on Earth. So, I mean, it might take a few tries or, a little bit of time, but sooner or later we get in a routine, and, we figure out what works for us and what doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just, figuring out how to set your schedule,
Yeah. Figuring out,
time management.
Figuring out which one is your gun and which one is your stun gun, that kind of stuff.
Oh man, it's just, see, like you're very good at segues. I picked that up pretty early on. So,
well, it's that I want to be a stand-up comedian someday, and I know I'm 56, but I'll be the world's first time stand-up comedian, age 83. I'm on stage, man. Let's do it.
see, I like to think I'm funny. I'm sure everybody likes to think they're funny, but I'm not funny in like the stand up, like think of jokes and say 'em kind of way. I feel like I'm better at like the sarcastic or like the witty remarks or like witty comebacks, you know?
You're the straight man.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah, yeah. I do the segue and you make the sarcastic comment about it.
There you go. It's the 1-2 punch. But but yeah, man, it's I mean it's I felt like it's always felt like this, but it seems just like every day it's something. Like I said, there's always every day there's something new on the news that uh, is either like upsetting or just it just makes you like think like what the fuck, like where are we heading towards, like what's going
Well,
on, you know, in the world.
don't you think it's kind of like it's a 24-hour news cycle now? It used to be it was 30 minutes a day, or you got 30 minutes of local news and 30 minutes of world news. And that was pretty much it. And there's a newspaper that came out at 5 o'clock or whatever. But nowadays it's like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they have to find stuff
To
that gets
fill.
ratings, that fills time, and not only fills the time, it gives the ratings. So, in between Conor McGregor's buying a pub that where he punched an elderly man last year is Cardi B saying something, and Joy Behar says something about Caitlyn Jenner, and then this cop accidentally shot this black kid, and a 3-year-old shot themselves in the face last night in Bakersfield. It's just this constant barrage of this, sometimes big news, sometimes important news, and most of the time just shit we don't fucking need to know. Seriously. I don't give a fuck if Conor McGregor bought a pub where he punched some old man. Who gives a shit?
I bet that guy that he punched gives a shit. He's not gonna be able to go to his favorite pub anymore.
I'm sure
But
that old man is well taken care of now.
but yeah, I get what you mean. It's just a constant like story after story after story, and it's like, you know, the news cycle I feel like is so short nowadays. You know, something big will happen today, and you know it'll get overshadowed by something else the next day, you know, or the next week, and it's just
Yeah.
we're in like this constant like cycle of like, oh shit, remember that crazy ass thing that happened last week, and then like a week later nobody talks about it, nobody brings it up. It's like it never happened. So it's just,
Yeah.
and it feels like, or at least I think that sometimes what that creates is like we'll care about an issue for like a week. You know, there's a mass shooting, oh fuck, gun rights, you know,
Yeah.
5 o'clock news every day for a week. The next week it's something else, and then nobody talks or cares about gun rights till you know the next mass shooting.
Till the next mass shooting, which in America is about what's that cycle now? Every 3 or 4 days? Shit, man. Wow.
Yeah, so it's like it. I feel like it's sometimes like there's some really important issues that we should like focus on and talk about, and they kind of just get you know, swept under the rug within a few days, and that they'll never get solved that way because we never actually sit down and talk about them and, you know, try to resolve them. And I can see why it creates, you know, like things like frustration, and you know, when that's what people don't understand, you know, like with the whole like George Floyd situation. Like there's one side, you know, when all that happened, there's one side of the aisle, you know, their main thing was like, you know, obviously there's police brutality, like it was fucking on video, like you saw a man die on video.
Right.
And then, you know, not long after that, you know, there was a protest, and, you know, there was like some riots here and there. And the other side of the aisle, all they focus on is, you know, those protests or like, you know, the riots that happened. And it's like they say, well, you know, I'm never going to condone. And I mean, I personally don't condone, you know, violence, you know, when it comes to protests and stuff. But at the same time, I'm able to recognize that those protests, those riots, they happen for a reason. And people on the right tend to ignore that reason and just focus on the riots themselves. Like yeah, like we shouldn't riot, blah blah. Like, well, no shit. Nobody wants to riot. They don't want to loot and do all the shit and burn, buildings down. But you have to see and you have to acknowledge why it's happening.
Yeah,
Like what
exactly.
what is going on, and then people like to say, it's a big talking point, like on the right. Well, if you really look at the numbers, there's more white people that are killed by cops than black people, and people aren't necessarily. That's not what they're arguing. They're arguing is that these cops, these police officers, the thing that happens is like they'll shoot somebody whether it's justified or not, and especially when it's not justified, and when there's video, when there's eyewitnesses, when there's pictures, nothing happens to them. There's no accountability, there's no consequences, there's no way to keep them in check, and that's what people are tired of.
Yeah.
They keep doing this, it keeps happening, and nothing happens to these cops. Like they like to say, oh, there's a few bad apples, there's a few bad cops. Well, the saying's not, oh, well, there's always a few bad apples. The saying is, a bad apple spoils the barrel, or
Right.
rots the barrel. So if you don't weed them out, if you don't remove these cops from these positions of power, you're never going to fix the problem.
Yeah. How many times did that gentleman that killed Floyd? How many times had he been reprimanded for violent acts?
Yeah,
A bunch.
he had a long history of complaints.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that he's been like sued, or the department had been sued before. And people, like, when you ignore those things, when you don't look at them, when you don't dig into them, when you don't investigate them, you're gonna get another George Floyd, in a few months or whenever it happens again,
Right.
because they go unchecked, and they're allowed to stay, as police officers, they're allowed to, stay in these positions of power that they ultimately abuse.
Yeah. And if you don't check them, then you're going to get the riots. And if you don't say what the riots are about, instead of concentrate on the riots, you should concentrate, like you said, on the cop that killed George Floyd, on the cops like him. And and you can tell me as many times as you want, oh, there's only a few. Well, that's bullshit, because if there's only a few, why do we have so many violent acts committed by police officers? What the fuck is going on there? And then people, they protest. Then you have a few bad people who are protesting, who aren't really protesting about the cops. They're protesting about they want a television, and so they kick a fucking window out. And then you concentrate on that, and nobody's talking about what they need to talk about. And then you have the news cycle that just cycles constantly about the Republicans are talking about the rioters, and the rioters are trying to make a statement, and no one's looking at what anybody's saying, at any truth. They're just continually stirring shit, continually, and it never stops. So if we could get some sort of voice in this country that would calmly explain to everyone, and maybe something would happen. But I don't know. I don't have any clue whose voice that would be. I have no clue.
And see, to me, even if we had somebody like that, there's always going to be people that, because I mean, I see it even now. There's people that, you could tell them straight to their face. You could show them, the facts. You could show them the proof. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to be right no matter what. They're not going to change their mind no matter what you show them. And it's just, there's no way to like make them see the other side,
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue that we have, is people failing to question their own beliefs, their own thoughts, their own ideology, because they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to, whether it be to other people, or they don't want to admit to themselves, like, oh shit, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Like, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to self-reflect and look inward. They just want to, point the finger and blame somebody, and then, post about it on Facebook or some shit.
Yeah.
And that's what we get where we are right now. So it's like, I mean, if you ask me, I don't have a straight answer of how we change that mindset. I mean, my best like opinion would be to like just keep things about the main issue and keep things about the core issues, because when you get sidetracked to these other like things that either aren't as important or ignore the main issue, you're just going to keep going back and forth for no reason, you know?
Right. Well, we talked about that last time, and I sent you that picture about when people hear things that goes against what they believe and how it causes cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance creates anxiety, and anxiety creates a, a need to reject that material. That's not right. That can't be right because that's against how I feel. But I think that's way human brains work. Recently, no, not really recently, I've been sober for 98 days now. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking pot. I stopped doing all the things that I knew were going to harm me. But it took me, Francisco, it took me a really long time, or Lalo, it took me a really long time to make the decision to stop, because
Yeah.
I'd done it for 43 years, and my personality was based in it, and my friendships were based in it, and my beliefs were based in it, and all the things that I'd done my entire life. So if you take that example of alcohol and drugs were such a part of my life, you could say the same thing about political beliefs, religious beliefs, any strong held belief that you want to change. You want to say, you know what, I've been a Republican my whole life, and along comes this Republican Party, this warped Republican Party that doesn't fit with the way I feel, but I still want to say I'm a Republican. And you have to do a monumental mental change in order to say, okay, I don't want to be like that. I'm not a Republican. Now what am I going to do? And that's where I sat for probably 60 days of my life. After I quit drinking, I was like, the fuck am I going to do now? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So my
And
whole life changed because of that thing. And I imagine if changing your political views does the same fucking thing. It changes everything about you. And then what do you
yeah,
do?
like if you were to talk to me a year ago about, anything that's, political, which I mean, nowadays is literally any topic.
Right.
Um, there is no way I would think of things the way I do now or analyze them. And I think the main thing that I changed was, like you said, like I got out of this, echo chamber of only listening to the people that agreed with me. If that's all you're going to do, you're never going to question anything, because all you're here is basically what you already believe.
Hmm.
And, you have to, get out of your comfort zone and, listen to the other side. You have no, I listen, me personally, I probably listen to like people like Steven Crowder, like Ben Shapiro, more than I do people on the left, because I want to hear what they say. And now that I'm able to like analyze and see what they say, like I personally think it's fucking stupid. Like everything that they say, like every argument that they bring up or every point that they try to make, like you can dismantle it so easy. But when you look at, their shows that they have like on YouTube or wherever they, they have their little like live stream shows, it's it's like them, and like I said, people that, their friends or like their co-hosts, they all think like them,
Right.
you know, and they don't bring on guests that, are left-wing people or like are, socialists or whatever. All they bring on are, these Republican, governors or like these Republican politicians that are all they're doing is just, they're fucking like shitting in their own mouths. Like
Yeah.
they're just agreeing with each other, like, and it's dumb.
It's
You're
a
not gonna,
circle jerk.
yeah. So it's, I mean, that's my advice to people. Like really like open your field of view and try to listen to other people's point of view when it comes to things like that. And I mean, if you really do it, like honestly, like talk to yourself and say, okay, I'm going in with like an open mind. You'll realize like that a lot of things that you thought you believed maybe aren't what they used to be, you know? And if
Right.
you really analyze, like, for example, that how you mentioned earlier about Caitlyn Jenner running for governor. Um, like the first thing I thought of the first thing I thought of when I saw that was like, Jesus Christ, we're gonna have another like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger type deal again. Because I mean that's how he became governor.
Yeah.
It was a recall vote for him. Um, so and I looked at her like post on Twitter or Instagram about her announcement to run, and she hasn't like laid out a platform yet, like her position on things or like her policy views and stuff like that. But I mean, she's been like a Republican, long time Republican, so I can imagine they're pretty right leaning views. But I remember seeing that one of her like big talking points was that I'm gonna come into California with a liberal social agenda and a conservative fiscal agenda. Trying to play that best of both worlds, like
Yeah, exactly. I saw that today.
socially liberal and fiscally conservative, and freaking there's going to be a lot of Republicans that look at them and they're going to say, oh man, that sounds like a good job, like a good idea. But then when you like I've talked to you so many times about this, like when people say fiscally responsible, like conservative, like that's like not a redundancy. What's the other word? Like something that it's a contradictory statement because Republicans have not been fiscally responsible at all. So when she says, I'm going to be, a fiscally responsible conservative, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like you're going to spend a bunch of money and then lower taxes? Because last time I checked, when we had Newsom and before then, Jerry Brown, California was in a surplus.
I miss Moonbeam. I miss Moonbeam a lot. I wish he could do it again.
When we had Bill Clinton, we were in a surplus. And then what happened? We jumped into two big ass, expensive ass wars. And then George Bush cut down taxes like at a historic level. And what happened? We got in the biggest recession in like the last 90 years. Like, is that responsible? Is that something you want? Like people don't see that. Like it's happening right in front of their eyes. Like people are losing their jobs. People are fucking, starving. And it doesn't click for them because they don't want to admit that their dude is wrong. That their dude is fucked up. And it's like, when I see that, I think to myself, what the fuck can you do there? Like, if it's right in front of your face, like, and you still refuse to acknowledge it or to see it, like what do you do then? Like, what do you do to fix that?
Well, even when they come up to the debates, even when you're like, okay,
I don't even call
Miss
those
Jenner.
debates.
I know. You're like, okay, Miss Jenner, what does fiscally conservative mean? Explain that. And it's like talking to a fucking psychotic homeless person all of a sudden because they don't say anything about what the hell is what the question was.
What they'll say is, they'll say something like, I'm going to create jobs and corporate taxes are too high. I'm going to cut taxes so these, people can invest back in their companies and create more jobs. But
it never worked.
If you really think about that statement, you have a business, right? And your taxes are at, let's say 35%. You're the owner of the business, 35% taxes. And then they cut your taxes to, let's say 25%, right? So your taxes went down. Are you really going to take that money and hire more people when, if you think about it, you're going to hire more people when in all reality, your demand is probably at the same level that it was before.
Yep.
So you're going to increase payroll, pay more people when your demand hasn't increased at all? No, the fuck you're not. You're going to take that money and put it in your pocket. And that's what they've done. That's what they've always done since Ronald Reagan. And people don't see that and they don't think about that. Just because the owner has more money does not mean he's going to hire more people. Because guess what? There's not more demand for his product There's not more business for him. So why would he hire more people and pay them, whatever shitty salary he's going to pay them?
But if
It
I
doesn't,
tell
it
you,
makes no sense.
if
It
if I
doesn't
tell
work.
you, if I tell you that's going to happen, and you, you say you're just the average guy on the street, that dude doesn't read financial papers. He doesn't understand the data that you could show him. He doesn't have time for that. All he has time for is for somebody to stand up there and promise him we're going to do better. And whether or not he even fucking believes him, if he's got an R next to his name or a D next to his name, that's where I'm going. It's Democratic, and Democrats say certain things and Republicans say certain things, and people just go, okay, that's the way I've always believed. That's the way I'm going to vote. If Caitlyn Jenner says the things that I've heard for 35 fucking years, that's the way I'm going to vote. Whether or not it worked, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that's exactly what she's going to do. She's just going to go, down like party line, Republican talking points. But one thing that's that made me very curious was there's obviously another like elephant in the room element to all this, to her, and that's that she's transgender.
Right.
And I knew as soon as she announced she was going to run, I went straight like to the comments of whatever post it was. And I knew it's like one of those moments that I've told you where like Republicans see that and their fucking brain starts short circuiting because they don't know what the fuck to think. Because they're fucking, half of the comments were from Republicans saying, oh shit, you know what? Maybe Gavin Newsom's not that bad. Or like, how there's no way I'm going to vote for her. She doesn't even know what sex she is. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, their transphobia, it just like supersedes everything else that they believe in.
It does.
And it's so obvious. And that's why I think, she is going to run. But that factor alone, I feel like there's a slim to no chance she wins because of that alone. Because of other people's transphobia, they could tell you everything you want to hear. We're gonna cut taxes, create more jobs, blah blah blah, do all this shit. Everything Republicans say, but she's a transgender woman, so they're like, fuck that. We're not voting for you. I don't care. I'll vote for Gavin Newsom. And I saw people comment that. I saw people put that like, you know what? There's no way Gavin Newsom's gonna lose to her. Like maybe he's not that bad. Blah blah blah. Like all this shit, and it's like Jesus Christ. Like they're so like fucked up,
yeah,
like in the way that they think that's gonna somehow affect like her, like policy or like, any of that stuff. Like she's a transgender woman. Like why the fuck do you care? Like why does that matter to you?
Because,
like is she gonna fucking force you to be transgender? Like no, I guarantee you that won't be on her fucking platform.
But Lala, what did they just do with Trump? They removed transgender rights. They removed the bathrooms. They tried to strip everything away from them. And along comes a transgender that runs for office. You think they're going to fucking get behind her? That would create that everybody in the world would go, what kind of a fucking two-faced bastard are you? You just tried to destroy them, and now you're standing behind one trying to vote her in.
And then it just makes me wonder, like, people like Caitlyn Jenner, like, you see that from the Republican Party. Like, there's no way you don't see that shit.
Right.
And then you still, like, identify as Republican. And, people like to say, well, oh, I don't always agree with what Republicans, do like socially, but I like their like fiscal policies and blah, blah,
I like
blah.
Their fiscal responsibility.
But people don't realize that these two things, social policy and, economic policy, are so like tightly woven together. Like they almost directly impact each other almost all the time when it comes to anything.
Right.
You want to be, socially accepting and, be pro-immigration and, pro-black and, all this stuff. You know what that's going to create? That's going to create jobs. That's going to create tax revenue. That's going to create more money. So when you say, fuck the illegal immigrants, I want them out of this country, guess what? That's a lot of money that's going to go out the door too. Yep. And then what? then what happens then when your fucking community that's based on agriculture is fucking dying because 70% of its workers were undocumented immigrants? Like, what happens then? Are you gonna go out there and do their jobs? No. So social issues and economic issues are 95% of the time like one and the same. And people try to separate them to, like Caitlyn Jenner, socially left and, fiscally right. Like like I said, a contradictory statement. They go hand in hand. And it just, it doesn't take that long to like, I'm almost sure that, any average person, if they spend, at the most like half an hour to 45 minutes on any subject, actually researching it and studying it, they would be more than proficient at it to know like what's really going on. But like you said, that doesn't happen. They just take things for face value. They just, all them talking points, all the headlines that grab the attention.
Yeah.
That's all that matters to people. And it's sooner or later, people are going to realize that shit's not going to like fly forever. Like it's not going to work like that. You have no idea how many people on the left I've seen criticize Joe Biden for like some of the shit he's done since he's become president.
Oh,
and you never saw that from the right. You never saw that with Trump. You never saw Republicans criticizing Trump. What did they do? They justified everything he did. Instead of criticizing it or, saying, that's bad policy, I don't agree with that, they would just find a way to justify it. And when you blindly follow something like that, when you don't question it, that's the real sheep right there. Those are the real sheep that just blindly follow. They don't care what it is. If my guy said it or if he does it, it's for a reason and I trust him. So, it's a good idea, whatever it is. Even if, you really think about it, you don't agree with it yourself. Well, he's doing it. So, it's got to be right. And like, no, like these people aren't gods, man. People treated Trump like he was a god.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Trump was a demagogue and that he wasn't. I can't even explain how I feel about Trump because everybody supported him blindly. I don't see any blind Biden supporters. I don't see anybody out there, supporting everything Biden does. He doesn't have that social power. I don't know what the fuck what Trump has, but I don't know if that's possible within the Republican Party that someone would raise up that no matter what he did or she did, she would be universally supported like he was. So that's one difference. Is that okay? I won't say it is. I'll ask it. Is that a difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party? Because Democrats will turn on their own people. But it's hard to turn a Republican against a Republican, no matter what he does.
Because people like Republicans view, these elected officials as, celebrities or, like you said, demagogues and like all these things where, Trump was like a fucking rock star to them. If you've seen any of pictures of or videos of his fucking rallies, you'd see that right away. Like this dude was all about, the appearance and the looks and the optics. And, people on the left, they don't see Joe Biden. You don't see any fucking Joe Biden flags on the back of trucks right now, do you?
No, you don't.
And you're not going to see them. I guarantee you that.
But I see some fuck Biden flags flying off of next to Trump's flags.
So it's like this belief that, they're fucking holier than thou. Like these are elected officials. They're public servants. They're supposed to serve you. They work for you. You elected them. Yeah. And if you don't like what they do, you have the power to elect them out. People like AOC, she's probably the closest thing to like, a quote unquote celebrity type politician on the left because, she's very popular. Obviously, like she's, a good looking person that always helps regardless of what you're in. And it's just, but even for her, like, if she does some like, if she were to do some like fucked up shit, I guarantee you there would be people on the left that would criticize her.
Definitely.
And it's like that it's like a different culture when it comes to, left politicians and right politicians. On the left, you have I saw this post that said, the right has people like, Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and Donald Trump, like, these voices of like reason and all this stuff. Like, who does the left have for that? And I thought about it. I was like, the left has the left doesn't need people like that. The left has the scientists and the academics and the university professors. Like, they have, the truth. They have the truth behind them. They have the science. They have, the studies. They have the statistics. They don't need to just, make up lies for like headlines. And I mean, Democrats aren't perfect. Like, they bullshit stuff too all the time. But to compare them, I don't think it's fair because it's not even close. People are always like, even right now, they're speculating like, oh, like Candace Owens should run for president in 2024, or like DeSantis from Florida should run. And I think like if that's the best, or like Ivanka Trump, like, or not Ivanka Trump,
No, not.
her daughter, what's her name?
I don't know, man.
Well, anyway, her daughter.
That whole family is like one person. Okay.
Yeah. So like for them, it's all about the name. It's all about, the image. And like, that's the best the Republican Party could come up with. Candace Owens. Like, if you listen to Candace Owens for more than 10 minutes, your head will like explode, or you'll lose like 20 IQ points, because the stuff she says is just, it's so ridiculous. It makes you wonder, like, do people, and it's scary because people, like, she has a huge following, which means a lot of people agree with her and a lot of people side with her. And it's just, like she talks about George Floyd, like the left wants to make George Floyd like this hero, blah, blah, like he's not a perfect man. No one, I have not heard a single person ever call George Floyd the perfect human being. Like, the people that, BLM didn't choose George Floyd. Derek Chauvin chose George Floyd to be the face of BLM by fucking killing him.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
It doesn't, I don't know. It gets me frustrated sometimes, but then, you can't like save the world like one fucking Facebook or Instagram post at a time. So it's just like, the best you can do is like when you actually like sit down to people and talk to them, or, they bring it up, or, the conversation comes up. I think like the best you can do is, try to explain to them like what we're talking about now, to really open up their minds and see the truth behind everything that's just, on the surface.
You reminded me of, you said you've come into this in the last year. This happened to me when I was a truck driver in the late 90s. I was my politics were pretty narrow. I had some views that I shouldn't have had because, well, like you said, you clung to your values that you were given when you were younger, and you grew up with them, and you justified them. But I started to listen to, as a truck driver, I started listening to, I know you're going to fucking laugh your ass off. I listened to Glenn Beck. I started listening to Glenn Beck, and I started listening to Rush Limbaugh, but not like I believed them. I listened to them because they were funny as fuck back then to me. But then it dawned on me as like, okay, people actually believe this. I'm going to listen to it with an academic's mind and find out what the hell is going on here. I called into these shows. I talked to Glenn Beck. I talked to Dennis Miller. I talked to Hannity. I talked to Michael Savage, because I was in the truck. I could just wait on hold for as long as it took to get on these shows.
Yeah.
And that changed me in ways. It's like, okay, now I see everything from both sides. I'm like, okay, I see why they see that, because they don't have all the information. And I see why a Democrat will see things a certain way, because they don't have all the information. Maybe if we came together in the middle, a little more centrist, and said, okay, everybody has these views, and some people are more left and some people are more right, but why can't we just agree in the middle that it's not okay to kneel on someone's fucking neck until they die, and not make it like, well, George Floyd wasn't perfect. No, we didn't say that. We said don't kneel on a human being's neck until they die because you're a fucking policeman. That's what we're saying. But they don't want to take it. They can't do it. For some odd reason, they can't say, you're right. cops have too much power.
And to me, to be honest, I feel like a lot of the time these like radio personalities or like TV show hosts, I think sometimes they do have more information that they give, like they know maybe they're not telling the whole story, but because of who they are and what they do, they're just going to tell you the side that, benefits them.
Their ratings.
Yeah. And, that goes for both sides. But like you said, why can't we just meet in the middle? I mean, for me personally, yeah, like that's a great idea. But there's some issues to me where there is no meeting in the middle. Like especially when it comes to treating different groups equally. Like when it comes to things like gay marriage, or like LGBTQ rights, like what do you mean? Like how would that be meeting in the middle? Like there's people that either want to give them, the right to marry, or people that don't want to give them the right to marry. Like there's no middle ground to that. And for you to say like, I just don't agree. Like I don't think marriage should be between a man and a woman. Like blah blah blah. Like to me, that's not something I would ever like. Oh, I respect your opinion on that. Like that, it's fucking bullshit. Like you want to treat other people differently because of who they are. Like you want them to legally under the law be treated differently. Like I would. There's no middle ground to that. There's no meeting in the middle for that. I mean, at least to me personally.
I can see that, but I can also say this as an ex-fundamentalist Christian. I see where they're coming from because their book says so, and they don't have anything other than that book. Now, we could say kind of meet in the middle. You can say, all right, let them get married. I don't agree with it. You can say whatever the fuck you want, but you can't take other people's rights away from them. You're absolutely right. But to take their rights and then to berate them and to use 2,000-year-old fucking book to justify yourself is absolutely fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. So you're right. There is no middle ground on that one. You can't take away people's rights because of some religious book. But again, I have to say I have some sort of understanding from where they're coming from. I don't agree with them. I know why they believe that way though.
And I know why they believe it too, and I don't care if they believe it. That's the thing. I could give two fucks if they believe what they believe. But when they start enforcing those beliefs on everybody else, that's when I take the issue. Because not everybody's Christian. Not everybody's, Muslim, or not everybody's Jewish. So when you try to force those beliefs or like, that ideology on everybody else, that's like some fascism shit right there, if you ask me. Like you can't do that. We live in the United States. Like that's not what we do here. At least that's not what we should do. And when you tell them that, they kind of just like try to backpedal or try to change the subject or stick to their guns and I just don't think like it's right, blah blah blah, like it's in the Bible, blah blah blah. Like guess what? Not everybody gives a fuck about your Bible. Like so it's useless. Like you can't just, force everybody to live the same way you do.
So we can make, from this side, we can make the really completely valid argument. All right, do you believe in the separation of church and state? Because if you don't believe in the Constitution. Now, if you do believe in the Constitution, you believe in the separation of church and state. And marriage has nothing to do with your belief system. It's a legal thing, not a moral, not a Christian, not a anything. If people can get married that are Christians or Muslims or Jews, then people who aren't Muslims, Christians, or Jews can get married too. And they may not have the same sexuality as you. So in order to separate church and state, you have to let everybody get married. And whether you agree with it or not, so what? Doesn't matter. It's still going to happen.
And I used to be like, we were talking about like middle grounds before. And I like, like I said, I've changed a lot in the past year. And I would say things like, well, maybe they don't get married, but they'll get like the same, because, there's like tax benefits
right
to being, married. Like, what if we just, give everybody the same tax benefits, like regardless if, they're gay or married or not? And, I thought, at the time I thought, that's a good middle ground. Like, that's a big, reason why people get married, or, that's at least a reason people get married. One of the benefits of being married.
Yeah.
Just give them all the benefits of it, and maybe it'll be better. But like, when you think about it, at the end of the day, you're depriving somebody of holding that title of being married, and that alone is classifying somebody as being lesser than you because they can't do what you can do, and that shouldn't happen. Everybody should be able to do the exact same thing when it comes to stuff like married. Like,
Yeah.
everybody should be allowed to get married. Like, why is that so hard to, like, why is that concept so hard to, like, grasp? Like, you should be able to love and live with and marry whoever you want.
And suffer. Don't forget suffer, because marriage
Yeah,
is a lot of suffering, Lalo. A lot.
exactly.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll find that out the hard way. But it's like, I don't understand. Like, and I mean, maybe because I'm not a very religious person, it's easier for me to grasp. But like, if you just really like sit down and think about it like that, it makes no sense to like deprive people of that, or to try to treat them differently because they're gay or lesbian or whatever they may be. Like, if it wasn't for your fucking, like you said, old ass book, nobody would care if they were gay or not. If it never said in any book it's wrong to be gay, literally nobody would care because nobody would have that perception that it's, wrong or
Right.
sinful. And it's like, I had a conversation, earlier, not earlier, but like a few days ago with somebody about, like gay people or like LGBTQ people and like coming out, and, how basically the conversation boiled down to they kind of thought that being gay was like a choice. And I was like, no, like that's so like ignorant to think. Like, nobody chooses to be gay. Nobody chooses to be fucking bullied in school and be fucking beat up and like all this shit. People can choose when to come out,
Yeah.
when they feel comfortable, when they feel supported. And the reason that's even like a conversation is because there's this stigma. There's this, and to me personally, it stems from like religious beliefs and like just different cultures that, it's wrong to be gay. If you look at Hispanic culture, especially like in the Mexican community, there's a lot of like old school Mexicans out there that are, parents or grandparents that if you come out as gay to them, they'll berate you. They'll tell you you're going to hell. Like, they'll be disappointed. There's dads out there that will, never talk to their sons again. And it's like,
Isn't that weird?
it's very weird if you
I
think
mean,
about it.
seriously, when you come down to you, I'm not ever going to talk to you again because you're gay.
And it's
What?
like these,
All right.
a lot of that stems from, Catholic roots.
Yeah.
Catholicism is very, anti-homosexual. And, if it wasn't for that, there would be no issue with being gay because nothing would be perceived as being wrong with it.
Yeah.
And that's, that goes, for probably most religions. I'm sure most religions are against homosexuality. Maybe not all of them, but I can guarantee you a lot of them are.
Almost. Yeah.
And it creates like, these cultures of not being, supportive and not being acceptive. And, I was lucky enough to, my parents are very, for being, Mexican and, they were born in Mexico and all that stuff. They're very like progressive. Like, my parents, my dad from a young age always told us like, and we never like gave him any reason to, but he always told us like, if you love somebody, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I won't care who it is. And I know that's a luxury that not many people have, especially in the Hispanic community. And that's why people are afraid to come out because it gets stigmatized, whether it be at home, whether it be at school, whether it be in society in general.
Yeah.
Like, if you're walking down the street, you see two people kiss, no one bats an eye. If you see two girls or two dudes kiss, everybody's like, oh shit, they're fucking gay. Like, everybody pauses and like looks at them and, whether they judge them or, even if you don't judge them and you just, you're pro LGBT, you still pause and, you like acknowledge it
Yeah.
because it's not the norm.
Yeah,
But
but we've been doing the other. Now, listen, we've been doing this, only been doing this for like 50 years. Okay. We still pause when a black person and a white person are married because it looks different to us. We still pause when any two people go outside what we consider to be the norm. And I mean, capital M norm. And we have these ideas about the way, but we're shaped that way, Lalo. Our fucking culture has done it to us. Television has done it to us, and the media and religion and the way we grew up. It's like, who's your girlfriend? That when I was a child, there was no like, who are you going to love? It was like, what girl are you going to pick? Or are you a faggot? And
yeah,
it was that fucking plain. And more or less, I was groomed as a child in the 60s and the 70s of what white girl am I going to pick?
yeah, and it's a slow process to, get rid of that, all that stigma and that, that just old school way of thought. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take, generations. But I mean, we've come a long way since, when it comes to like, progressiveness and acceptiveness. Like it's
Yeah.
very evident that we've come, a long way. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, you call me
Um,
old now? Is that what? Because I said when I was young, and you said it's going to take a long time. So
I mean,
obviously,
even
yeah,
even now, man, like I see it all the time. Like I have a friend who, their brother is gay, and I guarantee you, he didn't come out till after high school, after he left, like his parents' house,
yeah,
and I guarantee you, a big part of that was because he was afraid of what his dad might think or his mom might think. And is for when it comes to like the Hispanic community, it's mostly the dad. The dad's the one that's like more, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean you're gay? Like, get the fuck out of my house,
yeah.
you know? And it stems from, this like Mexican, like
Machismo.
machista, yeah, like machista, like you have to be, brave and, you have to like, what do you mean you like boys? Like, what the fuck? I don't want a son if he's gonna like another man. Like that shit, it scares people and it makes people go into hiding. And my friend, like his brother, he had a girlfriend in high school, and I was telling the person that I was having that that little argument about. I was like, there's gay people that they'll have what a boyfriend or a girlfriend, depending on who they are. That doesn't mean they're not gay. A gay dude can have a girlfriend. A lesbian person can have a boyfriend, but a lot of the times they refuse or they try to suppress who they really are because they don't want to accept it because they know what comes with it.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh
the
man.
reason we have that is because of this like intolerance towards it. And it just, I mean, to me it shouldn't be that way, and we're getting there, thankfully. I could see it every day. We're getting closer and closer. And I know, on this trajectory, like we'll get there eventually where, it doesn't fucking matter like who you like. If you love someone, if you want to, spend the rest of your life with them, live with them, whatever, like that's your choice. Nobody's like, gay people aren't going to fucking drag you into their bedroom and force you to watch them have sex or, make you have sex with them. Like that's not going to happen. So I don't know why people care so much about what people do in their private lives when it comes to that.
Listen, man, we go right back to the beginning. When you want to change your religion, when you want to change your political party, when you want to change the way you think, when you want to change your sexuality, it all boils down to how in the fuck am I going to manage everybody else's thoughts about me? It has nothing to do with I want to change because our changes are based in how we see other people looking at us. And at some point you have to say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to change parties. I'm going to come out as gay. I'm going to change my entire existence no matter what. And that takes a lot of fucking courage. I imagine at the sexuality level, oh my God, I can't imagine the courage that would take. just just changing my life to stop drinking and stop doing drugs and get rid of a lot of people in my life changed a lot for me. But it's nowhere near. When I tell people I quit drinking, a lot of, people are like, "Oh, congratulations," except for the people that I used to drink with. But to tell somebody that I came out as gay, holy shit, that's got to take a mountain of courage.
And I think it's always harder I mean, I don't know personally, but I can imagine it's a lot harder for like boys to come out as gay because, there's that environment of, you got to be a man and, you're on the football team and, do all this shit. And like you said,
Yeah.
which girl you taking to the prom, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I feel like being gay as a man is a lot more negatively stigmatized than being a lesbian as a woman. Not that, I mean, they both have it rough. Don't get me wrong. But when
Yeah,
it
you
comes
just
to
about
guys,
had a bunch of lesbians come down on you, man.
yeah, like you talk to dudes about, anything lesbian, though, but like, oh yeah, that's fucking hot, blah, blah. And you bring up like gay and they're like, what the fuck? Like that's fucking gay, dude. Like get the shit away from me. Like it's the same thing. Like people liking people, the same sex as them. Um, but to go back to your point earlier, I think it's people don't want to change because it's hard to change. It's easy to stay the same. It's easy to, you know, just it's easy to try to change everybody else to make them uh, think like you because that'll make you comfortable. When changing yourself more or less might make you uncomfortable, and people don't like feeling uncomfortable, especially when it challenges like their beliefs and their thoughts.
Yeah.
People don't want to think because it's hard. It's hard for them. It's hard to, like you said, reanalyze everything you've ever known or everything you've ever been taught.
I
And it's just it has to be done. But I get it. It's hard. I understand it's hard. But it's something that we're gonna have to do eventually.
I have been so lucky in my life because like my best friend in my 20s and or late 20s and early 30s, my best friend, he and his girlfriend and my wife and I were like inseparable for probably a decade. We hung out, we did a lot of drugs together, we drank together, we went to bars together, we went on vacation, we did all kinds of things. And then he came out as gay, and it was this change in my life that when he came out, he kind of self-isolated until I contacted him again and told him that I understood and it was good. And it was a good thing that he was happy. But I've been lucky in life to run into things like that, to monumental changes in my life, loss and change. And my best friend comes out as gay. I feel pretty blessed. And I don't mean that in some fucking invisible God way, Lalo. Okay. I feel pretty blessed, pretty lucky that I have an open mind now because of all the things in my life that have happened. So I'm 56 years old and I'm nothing like my father, nothing like my family at all. I accept everybody for what they want to do. And yes, I have my views about things, and yes, they don't agree with everybody, and maybe they'll come up, maybe they won't in later podcasts. But you know what? I accept everybody. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but I will make fun of you. I will make fun of you in a loving way. I will, I promise.
And the truth is, if people were to be able to, take that step and be more accepting and more tolerant, they'd come to realize that, one of the things that I'm sure they fear the most is that change. Like they think their life's going to change or,
Yeah.
they're going to be forced to live a different way. And I think many of them will be surprised that your life's probably not going to change at all. Like your example with your friend that came out, a lot of people kind of make it weird when, they have a friend that comes out as gay, especially like, let's say it's a group of dudes, like, a guy friend group, and one of them comes out as gay. I bet there's like a few thoughts in there from the other people, like, oh, is he gonna like hit on me now? Like, chances are that dude like knew he was gay before he told you. So, you know, it's not going to change that, they're going to start hitting
Yeah.
on you, and, they're going to ask you out. Like, they're still your friends. They're still the same person.
Still the same person. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
And that
Jeff,
goes with,
wait a
go
minute,
ahead.
man. See, the thing that happened, the funny part that happened here is Jeff's boyfriend is completely jealous of me. And I'm like, dude, listen, I'm not gay, but he can't get it out of his mind that Jeff and I, something might happen. I'm like, nah, nothing going to
Might
happen.
convince you one day.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to talk somebody into being gay. Jeff's not going to be like, you know what? I think you're gay. I'll be like, I don't know. I'll try it out. I don't think so. So it's funny how even on the other side, where on this side where it's like, oh my God, I wonder if Jeff's going to hit on me now. No, even on the other side, his gay boyfriend is jealous of me and I'm not gay. So there's all kinds of misunderstandings all over the fucking board that we all need to just drop and stop thinking about sexuality. And such this, it's like, I don't go to parties and introduce, hi, I'm Robert and I'm gay as hell. I'm Robert and I'm heterosexual. Well, glad to meet you, Robert. No, that's not how we do it.
And I mean, to me, that goes for like everything when it comes to, gay, transsexual.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, like reading those comments on the Caitlyn Jenner post, like to me, it was sad more than anything, because that's what people focus on. That was their main focus, was that she's a transgender woman. And it's like, why does that matter? Like, why does that affect you, like, at all? It's like nobody besides people that are transgender know what that feels like, to like feel trapped inside a body that doesn't feel like you. Like, I can't even begin to imagine like what that even feels like to begin with.
Yeah.
So, to come out as transgender, if you choose to transition, to do, all these things that make you feel like yourself and make you feel comfortable in your own skin, that takes so much like bravery. I remember she got an award for like a courage award.
Yeah.
And like people were like shitting on her. Like, there's fucking soldiers dying in Iraq and they gave it to her. Like, first of all, those are like apples and oranges. You can't compare those two things at all. Second of all, like, you have no idea, and most of us won't ever have an idea of what that feels like. Just like a lot of us, if you're not black, you can't really identify like what it feels like to be a black man or a black woman in America. We'll never be able to recognize or like experience what that's like. So the best thing we could do is support them and, accept them and, hear out, their struggles and what it takes, because it's a lot. It takes a lot to come out as, gay or lesbian, or especially transgender. And I mean, the suicide rates alone in transgender people should be evident of that.
Right.
Like, there's so many transgender people that like they feel so uncomfortable in their body and, so like hated by the outside world that they'd rather just end their life. And you're telling me you can't just, like I said, it doesn't affect you what they do with their body or not. Like, nobody's forcing you to get a sex change operation. Nobody's forcing you to take, testosterone or whatever.
Well, that's next. If we let those people change, then pretty soon everybody will be on testosterone under the,
and it's like
the gun,
I don't know. It's like when I saw that, like the Caitlyn Jenner comments, like the comments, like Republicans left on there, supposedly to someone that, belongs to their party. Like, it's ridiculous. And to be honest, it's kind of like, it's pretty heartbreaking, because like they deal with that every single day, no matter what they do. That's usually the main like talking point, or like
Yeah.
the first thing people noticed, or the first thing that comes up. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like why? Like, I don't know. I just don't make sense of it.
Because everybody my age, dude, everybody my age and above saw Bruce Jenner win gold medals and be on a Wheaties box and be a man's man and date fucking hot girls and be that super athlete that he was. That's what they remember. That's what they see. And now they can't unsee it when they look at Caitlyn Jenner. I have trouble. I'm going to say I do, because I remember Bruce Jenner winning gold medals and being on my Wheaties box and thinking, that's fucking cool, the American hero and all that shit. But I'm still able to separate that because like I said, I've been through enough in my life. I understand what it's like to change. So you have to be able to change in culture, or you get stuck in this fucking mindset that will hurt people. It maybe hurt you in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people, especially when it comes to that, they think it's like I said earlier, like a choice. Like nobody chooses like out of nowhere. Oh shit, you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm actually a girl, or I'm actually a boy, and it's like, people say, how can at the time Bruce Jenner, say she's a woman now, like you said, she dated, all these like girls, and she had kids, she had children. Like you're gonna tell me now all of a sudden she says she's a woman, and they blamed it like on the Kardashians, like, oh, they turned him like this, or
No.
and it's like, no, like people don't understand, like he did all that, he won those gold medals, he had his family, he had his children, while feeling trapped inside of a body that wasn't him or her.
Well, the truth of the matter is he may have done all that fighting the impulse to be a woman.
And why? Because he lived in a world where where that was like so voodoo and so like unheard of, that it would have ruined, like their life.
Yeah, of course.
And it took her that long, to be able to come out and, feel comfortable enough in her environment and in her, surrounding to to show the world who she truly feels like and who she really is. And people will never understand that because they don't go through it. And that's okay. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to, experience it, but you have to accept it, and you have to, support it, because you don't know what it's like, and you never will. And we're not telling you to experience it. We're not telling you to, put yourself in their shoes, because it's impossible. But all we're saying is, just make them feel normal. Like, let them live their life. That's all they want, to live their life comfortable and happy. That's all anybody wants.
And drop the ridiculous arguments that we hear. Just drop it. Just stop, man, because it don't make any sense. Like, I still remember hearing an argument that somebody thought was valid. It's like, if we let men start marrying men and women start marrying women, soon people will be marrying their pets. And it's like, what? No. People aren't going to marry a horse. People are people.
Yeah. That's it's the whole like slippery slope fallacy.
Yeah.
And it's just that it's a fallacy. It's not real. It's not true.
It's not real, but they believe it. They believe their argument. They don't believe it's a fallacy. That's the thing. And that's why I'm saying, drop the fucking ridiculous arguments.
Yeah.
And we're at an hour and 8 minutes. So this has been a great show, but we got to wrap it up. But I want to end with this. You're absolutely right. You actually, I'm going to say, you softened my view towards Caitlyn Jenner this evening. I'm going to have to say that. No, really, seriously, you did. I appreciate that. But I'm going to say I have nothing against her. I hope she's happy. I still remember Bruce. I still remember what he did. And no matter how much fucking courage it took, fiscally conservative doesn't make any sense. And I'm not voting for you, you fucking idiot. I'm not doing it.
For me, exactly. Like when I read that headline, she's running for governor. The first thing in my mind was like, I knew she's running as a Republican because she's been, historically Republican.
Right.
That was the first thing that came into my mind. I was like, I'm probably not going to support you because you're Republican. But the second thing that came into my mind was, I know most people won't support her because she's transgender.
Right.
And, just looking at the comments and reading them, it proved my point. That was their main reason.
My main reason is because,
for all we know, Caitlyn Jenner could be a piece of shit human being, but I guarantee you something, it's not because she's transgender. It's probably because she's Republican. But that's a whole different issue. Like that's, if you have to see, I'm gonna judge people by what they think and not who they are.
Right.
And a lot of people can't really separate those two things. And we have to start doing it because you're not going to progress as a society like that.
There you go.
And you're going to get left behind because
that was funny. You said you said you're not funny. That was fucking funny. Sorry.
So, if you're going to judge somebody, judge them on, their political views and, their actions. Don't judge them on who they like to sleep with and who they like and who they're married to. Like, that's stupid.
Right on, man. And that
if you could take anything away from all this, it's that.
Well, I was gonna say that's an excellent final thought. That's an excellent final thought. Stop fucking judging people and just accept what they do. If they're not hurting you, if they're not hurting other people, let it go, man. Let Caitlyn Jenner be Caitlyn Jenner. Let Bob Perrine be Bob Perrine. Let Lalo Arroyo be a Lalo. Just let us be. Just let us be.
Easier said than done, unfortunately.
No shit, man. Well, we're gonna have to pick this back up because at another time because I got more to say about it, but we need to wrap it up.
I'm down for a part 2.
Part 2. All right, man. So this has been a great podcast. I learned a lot, and if you stuck with it, I'm sure you did too. And if you didn't, you need to stop being Republican. This
or ignorant, but those two words are pretty interchangeable.
This has been Bob
and Lalo,
and we had a great time tonight. Thank you for spending it with us, and just remember, always remember, it's built into the title. We might be thoroughly fucking wrong, but we're having a good time. I'll see you next time, Lalo.
Later, man.
Later. You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching the Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.